And for more on China's economic outlook, I'm joined by Isaac Cohen. He is the president and CEO of Inverway LLC, a business development company here in Washington, D.C. So, Isaac, 6.2%. It was predicted that it would be a little bit slower. Still very good compared to other countries' growth. But what does this show?
Correct. Well, it shows that the economy is undergoing a global slowdown. And no economy is being spared in the sense that everybody is slowing down. And of course, there are certain specific factors in the case of China and the United States, I must say, which are contributing, being the two major economies in the world, are contributing to deepening the slowdown.
U.S. President Donald Trump claims that it is all a result of the trade war and U.S. tariffs on China. How much of that is actually true? You mentioned there's a little bit, but not really.
Well, the trade war has an influence, definitely, because, for instance, you look at the figures and Chinese imports have gone down about 7%. And that indicates that the economy is growing less, because in order for an economy to expand, they need to import more. And this is what we are seeing. But China is in the process of adjusting its economy to a different setup, in the sense that it's moving away from an export economy to an economy based on this domestic market. China has an enormous domestic market. It's a matter of increasing the purchasing power of the population in order to replace, these possibilities that exist throughout the world, that some of them are becoming exhausted. So the orientation of the economy towards the domestic market, I think, would explain the slowdown in economic growth as well.
Now, if there is a trade deal between the United States and China, is that enough to turn things around, or are we seeing a reality set in here?
Well, it would definitely help, because you see, for instance, in the United States, the trade war with China is affecting agriculture, for instance, severely. And farmers in the United States are very concerned because they have lost one of their main markets, which is the Chinese market. But as we go along, I think it would help if the trade war is out of the, out of the possibility, and we can start focusing on stimulating these economies much more. Like, for instance, the head of the Central Bank of the United States has said there will probably lower interest rates in order to stimulate the economy, so the stimulus in China will probably contribute as well. But we need to pay attention to the fact that Europe is slowing down and Japan is slowing down. So the major economies are really slowing down.
It's a global slowdown.
Yes.
We know that Beijing has taken some measures to preempt this slowdown. There have been tax cuts, other reform. Is there anything more that can be done to sort of stabilize growth?
Well, in the case of China, funding state enterprises has become a burden in a way, because some of these state enterprises are either too big or too inefficient, and that needs to be straightened out. But this is also part of the process of stimulating the domestic economy, because if the purchasing power of the Chinese population increases, that means that probably China will enjoy the biggest market in the world, its domestic market.
So we're here, the first half of 2019 is over. What are you looking for the rest of the year in terms of growth?
Well, looking at the United States to start, I think growth in the US this year will be around 2%. So that's a slowdown as well, because the US economy was stimulated by the lowering taxes that President Trump approved and the Congress approved in 2017. But that's coming to an end. So there's no equivalent stimulus. This is why it's so important to see if the Federal Reserve is going to respond lowering interest rates. Now that would add an ingredient of stimulus to the world economy. And China also, as the trade war would be eliminated, I think China would contribute as well to world growth.
Isaac Cohen, always great to hear your take. Thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure.